It's time to take a slightly deeper look at the machinery behind a FileMaker database, and in particular, I'd like to take a moment to explore with you the whole concept of tables and table occurrences. You'll recall that in a previous lesson, I pointed out that it's possible for a single table to have more than one occurrence on the graph, serving different purposes in the database system. The example I used previously was the notes table, which actually appears 4 times on the relationships graph of the current version of the work file, allowing notes to be attached to records in different tables, yet with all the note records residing in a single underlying notes table. That's a simple and fairly obvious example of a case where you might want multiple representations of a single table in different places on the graph, but there are others. Taking the example of the graph we have here, as you see, the quotations table is joined by a relationship to the publications table, which in turn is joined to the author publication join table. Let's say I want to get more direct access to author information from a layout that's based on the quotations table. It might seem like the thing to do would be to add another relationship that connects the publication ID field in the quotations table occurrence with the publication ID field in author publication join. But if I were to actually try that, like so, as you can see, FileMaker posts an error dialog and requires that a new table occurrence of one of the tables be created. Notice that the dialog says there cannot be more than one relational path between any 2 tables in the graph. Think about that for a moment. The reason FileMaker has this requirement is so that references to fields in related tables will never be ambiguous. If I'd been able to create the direct relationship from quotations to author publication join whenever I was working, say, from the publications table and called up a field in author publication join, FileMaker wouldn't know whether to use the direct relationship between publications and author publication join or the indirect one, passing through quotations and back to author publication join. In other words, adding such a relationship would have created a circular set of table occurrences and relationships that FileMaker wouldn't be able to resolve without ambiguity. So rather than preventing you from creating additional relationships to see a different view of the data in another table, FileMaker instead permits and in fact requires the use of multiple table occurrences on the graph as a way to get different views of another table. One of the intriguing and in fact very useful consequences of that aspect of the relationships graph is that you can in fact set up a relationship between 2 table occurrences that point to the same underlying table. That's a situation where you're effectively creating a relationship between a table and itself, and that kind of relationship is commonly called a self-join. Let's look at an example. Suppose that from records in the publications table, I'd like to be able to see a quick list of other titles from the same publisher. A clever way to do that would be to use a relationship from the publications table to itself. Let me show you. I want the relationship to connect on publisher ID, so I'll drag from the publisher ID field and connect it to the publisher ID field. Notice that FileMaker prompts us again to create a new table occurrence for this self-join relationship. In this case, I'll call the additional table occurrence Publications by Publisher. I'll move it down a little out of the way so we can still see where everything is and what it is. And now we have a self-join from the Publications table to the Publications table using 2 separate table occurrences, both pointing to the Publications table. Now there's a new relationship in place, let's go and see what it will do for us in practice. If I go to Layout mode on the Publications layout and select the Portal tool, then drag at the right of the layout, FileMaker shows the Portal Setup dialog. I can now choose to show related records from the new table occurrence Publications by Publisher. I'll choose to sort the portal records according to publication title, and I'll choose to show a vertical scroll bar and to provide a background fill on alternate rows of the portal. FileMaker now prompts me to add fields to the portal, and in this case the only field I wish to add is the title field from the Publications by Publisher table occurrence. OK. I'll return to Browse mode and let's see what we've got. So as you can see, for the publisher Penguin Books, there are a number of publications by a couple of different authors listed in the portal. Interestingly, the relationship includes a link to the same publication that's shown on the current record. So Emma, for example, by Jane Austen, appears on the second record in the found set and also appears at the top of the portal of related records. That's because, like all of the other related records, Emma is published by Penguin Books, so the publisher ID is the same and Emma appears along with the other titles when viewed via the publications by publisher relationship. If I were to go back now into the Specify Relationship dialog by double-clicking on the symbol on the relationship line on the relationships graph, I could now add an additional criterion to the relationship. Let's say I choose Publication ID is not equal to Publication ID, and then click the Add button. FileMaker adds an additional predicate to the relationship. So now we are matching on Publisher ID, but only in cases where the Publication ID doesn't match. When I apply that change, you'll see that FileMaker excludes the current book from the portal, so only other books published by the same publisher are going to appear in the portal. And of course that means that now the portal will only contain records for those publishers for whom there are other publications elsewhere in the table. In this case, only for those books published by Penguin Books, because we don't have a lot of data available at present in the work file.